Have you ever thought about cruising the mighty Mississippi or other destinations close to home for your next vacation? Welcome to RTE-Travel Talk, Ask a Real Travel Expert, the show that talks to travel professionals around the world. And today we're joined by Chris and Tracy Archer of Good Life Travel Group to explore American Cruise Lines and Viking on the Mississippi. If you enjoy the journey with us today, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so you'll never miss an episode. And if the video's got you inspired, give it a thumbs up or drop a comment and join the conversation. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for being part of our travel community, whether you're a longtime fan or just dropping by. We really appreciate it. And now, on with the show. Hi, folks. Welcome back to RTE Travel Talk.
Morning, Ken.
Morning, Ken. Good to be back.
So, Chris and Tracy, we've got a lot of interest of late in American Cruise Lines and Viking sailing the Mississippi. Now, I know that you've got quite a bit of experience with American Cruise Lines and you know a lot about Viking. So I was hoping today if we could spend a little time talking about the two options. You know, perhaps cruise a little closer to home. What are their options for cruising? How does that sound?
Sounds like a plan.
Perfect. So Chris, why don't you give us a little bit of an overview on the options that are available with American Cruise Lines and Viking when it comes to cruising close to home?
First of all, American Cruise Lines is an American-based cruise line,
Right.
and Viking is out of Sweden. Viking has one ship on the Mississippi River, and American Cruise Lines has 5 ships
Okay.
on the Mississippi. American Cruise Line also has many ships that travel all over the U.S., including the Tennessee and the Ohio River, the Snake and Columbia, Puget Sound, Alaska, Eastern Seaboard, down in Florida near the Keys. So they travel extensively.
Right.
Viking does use their expedition ships in the Great Lakes in Michigan. Those ships are also used to do, from the Arctic to Antarctica. So that's kind of the difference as far as what they're doing in the U.S.
Okay. Right. So exactly. You probably wouldn't find nearly as many itineraries with Viking because their expedition ships go elsewhere in the world, I would expect.
Yeah, and Viking only has one ship on the Mississippi. An American Cruise Line has 5 ships on the Mississippi.
So Tracy, you sailed on American Cruise Lines in the Mississippi, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, we were on the American Harmony.
Tell us a little bit about that. How did you find the experience?
We loved it. It was during early December when we were on there, so
Yes.
nice to see it all decorated. And the ship was pretty modern. It was not a paddleboard ship. Nice, comfortable rooms. They're about 350 square feet. A nice balcony. They had great historians on that ship. They would tell us each day what was going to happen the next day. Very informative. We really loved the ship, as far as the comfort of it, and enjoyed all the stops. And again, not overly huge excursions with a whole bunch of people because the ship is a little smaller.
Right.
So we enjoyed the Harmony.
Yeah. How was the atmosphere as compared to, like, for example, perhaps a river cruise in Europe? Is it kind of the same, or is it a different feel on board, in your view?
It's a little different feel. I would say more quaint, more history as far as what they're talking about in our country was very interesting to us along the Mississippi. And I loved seeing the Mississippi as a still working river, like a lot of things going up and down. And I liked watching how active the river was.
Yeah.
Was one of my highlights. I like that.
Yeah, as far as the interesting scenery in Europe, for example, on the Rhine, seeing the castles and, so there's a little bit more of that kind of look on the European river cruises as opposed to the Mississippi.
No, exactly. So the Mississippi's more focused on the actual history as you're going down the river.
A lot of it, there will be historians on board talking about the Civil War.
Right.
So you hear a lot about the Civil War on that particular cruise as opposed to the Columbia Snake River where they're talking about Lewis and Clark.
Yeah.
American Cruise Line also has the paddle wheelers, which are much more nostalgic and decorated in that period. So they have that option of doing the paddle wheeler or the more modern ship that would be more compared to Viking ship.
Right. So that basically comes down to a matter of personal preference, whether you want to step back in time or you want a little bit more modern comforts and and luxury, I would expect.
Yes.
Correct.
So you folks were on the Harmony, and that ship would compare to the Viking ship, right?
That would be the two more modern equivalents.
Yeah.
I would say that because the Viking ship is much larger, of course, it holds twice as much. It's a little bit more open spaces. Like they have a deck, like the Viking ship has a deck where you can walk all the way around the ship.
Right.
Where the Harmony, you would have to go on top of the ship, and there's a little track on top of the ship. Both are very nice, but I would say as far as aesthetics and design, Viking probably has an advantage there. It's just a little bit more modern and sleek than the Harmony would be.
Right.
And when I speak of the Harmony, there's all of their ships that are the more modern ships, like the Jazz and the Symphony and the Harmony, are all in the same class and identical.
Okay. Tracy, you mentioned the staterooms are about 300 square feet. Did I hear that right?
350 square feet.
That's a really good size.
Really nice space, and with the balcony, which I enjoyed a lot in the mornings and the afternoons. Bathroom's a nice size, so it's very comfortable to be on there.
I would say that the rooms on Viking and on American Cruise Lines, they're pretty similar as far as the size of the rooms in the same category.
Right. So what about the common areas on the two ships? Like, obviously, you're not going to spend all your time in your room or on your balcony. Which one of the two do you think has perhaps the upper hand there?
I think they have similar amount of space. They both have very big windows outlooking where you can see out. They both have very nice
like a common
area lounges where you can listen to speakers. Again, I think Viking, they may be a little nicer because they're a little wider and a little more open as opposed to ACL. But, we can get into, value and pricing, that'll somewhat make a difference.
Right.
But there's outside areas on both, I would say, nice, comfortable. If you want to be outside, you're
very, very, yeah, absolutely.
Or inside to see.
I really like the upstairs. The upstairs level of American Cruise Lines that's outside.
So basically both ships give you a good amount of common public areas that for viewing and other entertainment functions at the same time.
Yes.
What about the entertainment on board? What can people expect?
Normally in different ports, both cruise lines bring in local people.
That was really cool. Yeah.
That to perform on the ship, they might be it might be a magician, or it might be a local singer or a local comedian, as well as they have someone that's just a regular on the ship that may play the piano and sing and get the audience singing or dancing. But one of their main things that both of these lines would do is have their historian on board that's giving you the story as they move down the river of what's happened in the history as far as the Civil War on the Mississippi.
Right. With the onboard historian, would that be something that happens pretty much every day?
Yes, pretty much every day. Absolutely. They're just they're just continuing the story along the river as they go down.
Keep it interesting. It's not boring at all. It's you want to go and hear about the next day.
Yeah, it keeps you wanting to come back.
Yeah. So one of the things, like with river cruises in Europe and that sort of thing, the dining is a big thing. How did you find the dining on board the Harmony,
Tracy?
The food was great. Yeah. We never had a bad meal. Everyone can eat at the same time if you want, but it was sort of open seating when you go down.
Right.
You just go down when you want to. They always sort of did like a happy hour before dinner, had a drink before, music playing, and then everyone just sort of goes to dinner. They can serve you all at the same time or as you want. So we like that, not to have to be there at a certain time.
Okay. Basically, it's anytime dining within a certain amount of hours.
Yeah.
And the Harmony had, or just like the other modern ships American Cruise Line has, they have one main dining room.
Right.
Where Viking has three. They need three because they have twice as many people on the ship. So, but I would say that the food is, as far as the quality, is somewhat equal.
Is there such a thing, like on some of the river cruises in Europe, they have like a specialty dining venue on some of their river ships? Do we find that on any of the ships on the Mississippi? Or is it
I
just
don't
one dining room?
believe it's just one.
Just one dining room.
Yeah, one main dining room. Yes.
Yeah.
But during lunch and breakfast, it might be a buffet, or you could order off the menu. And at dinner, it's all served and nice, and they change it up very nicely every night.
But there may be a burger area
Right,
on the
exactly.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, the very
Yeah,
back.
so
you could do
you
that.
have that option as well, but it's pretty much an open kind of. You can have like continental kind of breakfast on the back of the ship in one of the lounges,
Right.
Coffee early.
or you could go to the main dining room for breakfast. But a lot of times at lunch, you're out seeing things.
So, Tracy, you mentioned the happy hour with drinks, which begs the question: what's included with your river cruise on the Harmony, and how does it compare to Viking? Are drinks
The
included, or how does that work?
On the Harmony, drinks are included, including mixed drinks.
Okay.
And you could go to the back of the ship and make yourself a drink. You could get a Bloody Mary or a mimosa in the morning.
Yeah, and we found it open most of the time. Someone was back there, a bartender ready to serve you at any time of the day, which was nice. Going without at all. I mean, if we wanted something, we had something, and even at lunch, they would serve wine if you want wine.
Yeah, and with Viking, they include beer and wine at lunch and dinner.
Okay.
But they do not include mixed drinks. Anything other than lunch and dinner you would have to pay for. Now you can buy an additional package with Viking. On pretty much all of Viking, throughout the world,
Right.
you can pay like $300 to $400. You can add their alcohol package per person, and then it would be more. That would be more comparable to what American Cruise
Right.
Line offers.
So basically, American Cruise Lines is more inclusive of the two.
Yes, and as far as the excursions go, they both offer 1 to 2 things included in the price, and then they have other excursions with an additional fee, but not a whole lot, but an additional fee to do some extra things.
Right, and that applies to both Viking and American Cruise Lines.
Yes.
Speaking of the shore excursions, what can people expect? Like, I know when we cruise on the Rhine, what you can expect. What do you find on the Mississippi for a shore excursion?
Well, one of the great stops is Vicksburg for their military park in Civil War type of thing. Basically, almost every state has a different monument there. Very, very interesting stop. And also there's, you're parked right at some of the, different historical homes.
Or plantations
To stop to view those kinds of things. So it's again, it has a lot to do with the Civil War type of things.
Oh, fantastic. So in other words, the shore excursions are really good.
I found them even more interesting on the Columbia and Snake River,
Right.
just because of where they stopped and more. They're more in towns where you could explore the towns.
Right.
But the Mississippi had great opportunities to travel out and see the towns, or stopping right along the river at some historical home. So it was interesting as well, just in a different way.
Right. What typical type of guest would what would a typical guest look like on board either one of these lines?
Usually, I would say, between 65 and 85.
Right.
That's basically what you would see.
Be active. I mean, not a lot of.
Yeah, but active people, not, we didn't see a lot of people that were not
couldn't
very,
get around.
that couldn't get around too well.
What about
Of course, there was a few, which is nice that they can get on the river and be able to see things.
Yeah.
Someone in a wheelchair could still be able to easily get in and off the ship. Once you stop, you'll be able to scoot right out, and a lot of times get right on trails and move around and down the river.
If I hear you correctly, what you're saying is the Mississippi, whether we're talking American Cruise Lines or we're talking Viking, is a good choice for folks that may possibly be mobility challenged a bit. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Oh, fantastic. That's not something you see in Europe a lot because of the way the ships are. Oh, that's a great option.
Right, and a lot of the cobblestone roads,
Yep.
and different things like that.
You mentioned the age bracket there, 65 plus. Did you folks come across any kids on board, or is this something that would be of interest to kids?
I would say no.
Yeah.
I don't.
We didn't see any kids,
Yeah.
but possibly interested if they are studying.
Definitely not young kids.
Yeah, there's not enough for those guys to be busy.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure if a high schooler would, unless they were just into history, and if they were into that kind of thing, I think yes. But if they're into looking at their phones and typical teenagers. That
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
Probably not. That's what they would be doing the whole time.
so in other words, unless they're going to be history majors, this is probably not the best choice.
Yeah, we saw a lot of parents traveling with their adult children, which was really nice. A lot of moms
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
daughters.
like a mom and daughter would go together, or you're a father and son.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was nice to see, and we traveled with our family too.
Yeah.
We had probably 6 family members on, which was really nice. And
So how did that work out? Like multi-gen is a great idea, but how did that work out with your accommodations? Were you able to get adjoining rooms, or
It wasn't necessary
no,
because the ship is small. We could get rooms next door to each other, but
yeah,
or maybe on the same floor. But you're
They
talking
just
about a small ship, so it's easy to
meet us in the common area and have a coffee or something like that.
yeah, so it's really not an
Yeah.
issue. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and usually I try to get people, people that I help with the cruise. I usually try to get them on the floor with the actual lounge areas for the entertainment, so it's easy to get back to their room,
Right.
Yeah,
back and forth, and
we could just walk either way on. I think that was level 4 we were on, and but this way was the outdoor, grill and common area, and that way was the where they talked about all or the actual theater room. So it was very
where
nice
they had
to be
the
on that
seminars and entertainment. So
Yeah.
So how was your weather?
It was good. We didn't really have rain at
Yeah.
all on either. that we
right,
went
for
on, so.
being there at that time of the year, it was good weather. But of course, we would steer
Layer up.
people to the right time of the year.
Yeah. And on that, what do you think is probably the best time for a Mississippi cruise?
I would say probably in the spring or in the fall. That would be mine, because it would be a little better temperatures
Mhm.
Right.
in those times of the year, because it can get pretty warm in the south in the summertime. So
No, exactly. So you're going to find cooler weather in the shoulder seasons then.
and
Yeah.
it's not like this isn't a beach swimming vacation. So it's
You want to
No,
be comfortable.
much
walking
much
around.
better time to go when it feels like air conditioning outside. So.
no, exactly. So I'm going to put you on the spot. When we look at the two lines and it comes down to pricing and value, where do they stack up?
I'll step back a minute. Most of the people who go on Viking, around 85% are repeat Viking people.
Okay.
Okay. And they're used to that level. They're used to paying at that level.
Right.
A typical vacation on the Mississippi for about 8 days, a Viking would probably cost you, $3,000 to $4,000 more than it would on ACL.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
You would get, a similar size room, all of that being equal. But with Viking, you're going to have a better design and aesthetics, and, you're going to have a little nicer ship, but you're also going to have more people on the ship.
Right.
Where American Cruise Lines is still going to be more of a modern ship. You're going to get similar as far as the story and the entertainment. So if I had a client come to me, I would know the client.
Right.
I would know what their history was on what they've done in the past and what they could afford. A luxury client, I may, steer to doing bike. If they were asking me about the Mississippi, I may steer them that way. But as far as value goes and what you're going to get out of the whole thing, I think American Cruise Line has a better value.
Interesting. So when you say 3,000 to 4,000, is that per person or per stateroom?
That's per stateroom.
Per stateroom, right? Okay.
It really depends, because it's the times of the year.
No,
So
exactly.
it varies.
Yeah.
But if I looked at 2 at the exact same time of the year, that's basically what I would find.
What you're going to be looking at. And as a rule, when we line up a river cruise on the Mississippi for 8 days versus a river cruise in Europe on the Rhine for 7 or 8 days, am I correct in my assumption that the Rhine river cruise is likely going to be less expensive as opposed to the Mississippi river cruise? The major difference being is you got to get to Europe and your airfare is going to be significant.
Well, yes. I would say that the pricing would be somewhat similar.
Right. Okay.
And maybe even a little more especially with Viking. I think Viking would charge a little bit more on the Mississippi than they might on the Rhine.
Yep.
But you got to remember that on the Rhine, Viking on the Rhine it's an enormous amount of ships that they have. So because they have so many can't charge quite as much as if they had one
Yeah.
ship. They only have one ship, so if people want to be on that ship, it's going to be a little bit more. That's why they can ask a little bit more.
And that concurs. Like most Rhine and Danube river cruises for 7 days or 8 days seem to come in less expensive. But basically, as you said, Chris, it's just because there's more availability other than getting there.
And you're right, as far as the airfare, they don't have to pay. You know, most people feel more comfortable staying in the States. They can get that.
It's nice to have that option.
Mm-hmm.
Stay here.
So, Tracy, if you were to take another American Cruise Line voyage, what would be your next adventure with American Cruise Lines if you had to make a choice?
I would probably want to go on the East Coast somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't done that yet, so see that area.
Maybe Maine and
up in the New England kind of area.
Yeah, you know, they've got the ships called Coastal Cats, and they only hold 100 people.
Right.
And it's kind of like designed after like a large catamaran.
Right.
So they have those kinds of ships. So we've talked about
Possibly doing that.
about doing one of those.
In Canada, New England is very popular, and that would be a different way to do a Canada, New England cruise.
Mm-hmm.
If someone was kind of undecided, what do you think should be some of the key factors that they might want to consider when choosing between the two?
I would probably lean towards, you know, American Cruise Lines because of, you know, being able to do it for a little better price.
Right.
Especially on the Mississippi. Now, on the other rivers in the U.S., you know, I would definitely have to send them to American Cruise Lines because Viking, there's no option there.
But both cruise lines are going to give you a good experience.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Both are going to, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, folks, this has been absolutely great. Is there anything else you might like to add about either American Cruise Lines or Viking before we wrap up?
I would recommend the Mississippi River. I think it's a great way to learn about history. You get a little more value, like I said, with American Cruise Lines, you know, but with Viking, again, you know, just with a little bit more stylish ship.
Right.
Some people may enjoy going that way.
And if folks wanted to reach out to you about either a cruise on Viking or American Cruise Lines on the Mississippi or elsewhere in the good old USA, how would they do that, folks?
Oh, they can reach us at Good Life Travel Group. They can go to our website at goodlifetravelgroup.com. They can call us at 404-392-7609.
Perfect. I will leave that information in the description for those folks that might like to reach out. But as always, since I get to live vicariously through the travels of all the wonderful people I get to interview on this channel, I have to know where you guys are off to next.
We are off to Alaska in May, actually the middle of May, on Regent, on the Regent Explorer. We have that coming up, and we also have a Viking trip, another group in the fall on the Rhone River in France.
Oh, really? Viking on the Rhone?
Viking on the Rhone, yes.
Well,
and we're open if anyone wants to join us. We'd welcome.
Well, that sounds like a plan. We'll have to have you back to regale us with your adventures on the Rhone with Viking. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Sounds great.
Perfect.
Thank you.
With that, folks, I'm just going to wish the two of you safe and happy travels on all your future cruises and destinations. May the wind always be at your back, and I hope to see you on the sun deck of an American Cruise Lines or Viking ship sometime soon in the future.
Thank you.
Take care. And that about wraps it up for today, folks. A very special thanks to my guests, Chris and Tracy Archer of Good Life Travel Group. If you would like to reach out to Chris and Tracy about a river cruise on the Mississippi, I will leave their contact information in the description. If you'd like to reach us, you can simply send a question to questions@realtravelexperts.com, visit our website, realtravelexperts.com, or simply leave a comment. We always respond. And as always, folks, if you enjoyed this content, a like, subscribe, share, and a ring of the bell is certainly appreciated and helps other folks just like you to find our content. So until next time, happy travels.